Come on, guys, ready? This is the intro for today. Yes, yes, yes. Witness magnificence. Okay. Got it. I'll do some dips for the last video. So today, you already know, this is the final depths of the conspiracy theory iceberg. Are you guys ready for this? I'm ready for this. Are you ready for this? I'm ready for this. It is 52 minutes. Now, I don't know if I'll be transformative for the entire 52 minutes, but I see your guys' comments every time. Don't worry. I'm not going to stop myself from saying anything, no matter how loony it says, because what is my branding? Lunar was lost. So I'm a lunatic. But, that doesn't stop us from the fact that this is 52 minutes. This is going to be pretty crazy. So, what I'm going to say ahead of time, again, I say it in the beginning of the other videos because some of those stretch pretty long. But grab yourself some snacks. Make some food. Grab some water, grab some juice, grab some coffee. Shoot, maybe you're watching this as a college man. You know, I'm shouting out right there. But get all your stuff together and sit down by the cozy campfire. I might even have to record this in parts, not like it'll be one whole video, but parts so the recording doesn't mess up. And we gonna do this. So, because she's not here, as you see from the beginning of the video, someone was supposed to join us for this video. She is on screen right now. It's a shame she couldn't be here. But it's okay, guys, because we don't need her. Let's go. Welcome to the final depths of the conspiracy theory iceberg by Wendigoon. Shout out to Wendigoon. Awesome series, bro. And to you guys who are not subscribed yet, subscribe if you want to be a part of the founders. And if there's any videos you want me to watch after this from Wendigoon or anybody, you guys know what my channel is about. So let's do it. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't think I've ever sat through a straight 52-minute video on the channel yet, but maybe I have. No, I've sat through, I guess the campaigns and critical role count. I've sat through like damn near 4 hours and edited it down to like an hour or 30 minutes. Let's do this. Right. He has the tier on screen already, so I'm just going to start reading it. Bank of Souls, Incorruptible Saints, God of the Gaps Never Existed. I don't know which of these you can't read, so actually, I think before reading them. Wait, I don't think there's ever been one he has. No, there has been a couple he has not read. Okay, so I will say this by YouTube. I have no idea what any of these mean. I'm just reading names, so don't blow me up for reading text on screen. And oil and resources from humans, feelings, auto-suppression. Oh, king your energy. Oh shoot, I can't actually say that, so you didn't hear anything in the video. Virus. Actually, can you say that? Yeah, you can't say that. Virus 23, Pancreas denial, patterns manipulation, fractalization, Romans still, real humans die. Oh, God's ego death. It's funny, we have ego deaths every day. And if we're the guy, okay, let's just get on with this. There is no conspiracy, and all conspiracies are true. Everything in the end becomes true. That's a weird truth. Everything in the end becomes true. Depression overriding. Oh yeah, this one's gonna be fun. The grand theory of this. Here, I'll put it on the screen so you can see the grand theory of this. Okay, here we go. Since it's a long video, I'll actually bleep out the one thing I said. Okay, here we go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final part of the conspiracy theory iceberg. We're finally here at the last curtain call, and I'm wearing the hoodie that I wore over a year ago now to start the first part of this series. And to be honest, I could never imagine that everything that's happened between then and now would come to be. And I'm so blessed, and I'll get all sappy about it at the end. But I just want to say thank you for being here, and thank you for sticking with me this long.
Was this really the hoodie you wore? I didn't even notice. I have the playlist now. Let me see, part 1. Well,
Which around the 20.
oh, it is. It was the first hoodie he wore. Wow. Why's my playlist all jumbled? Okay, I don't know. I'll figure that out later.
Long. Now, I'm sure that
weird.
you're excited to get into these theories as much as I am, and let me tell you off the bat, they are a doozy. One thing that I want to mention now that I didn't really emphasize enough throughout the rest of this iceberg is that this list isn't strictly conspiracy theories, but you've probably figured that out at this point. The original name of this iceberg, whenever it was floating around on the internet a few years ago, was the Chart of Truth. So it's not just conspiracy theories in the way that we think of them, it's fundamental truths or hidden truths about reality. The reason I say that now is because pretty much every single entry, spare a few on this final tier, all have to do with theories about reality and God and existence and stuff like that. I will also add that a lot of these theories are the most philosophical within the entire iceberg, so if there was ever a time to do your own research where I could be wrong, this would be it. I also want to say, I'm not sure when this video is going to go up, but I am recording this on Christmas Eve, so let me say first and foremost, Merry Christmas. And I am so pumped and excited to get into this, and now I can finally say we've been from the tip of the iceberg all the way to the depths of it. So let's get into some of the weirdest concepts that I've ever read about. But before we get into that, you may be wondering why I've had a change of venue, and that's because of today's sponsor, Galaxy Lamps. And Galaxy Lamps is such a fantastic product that as soon as it came in, my girlfriend stole it from me and made me come to her place to shoot this ad. So now she gets to be the one to tell you about it. So before we turn this on, Kayla, how does the stand work? Take it out from under your shirt.
It has the 3 positions.
His girlfriend was in the final tier of his iceberg. That's real crazy. And mine was going to be here.
Stand, so you can control if
Weird.
it goes on the wall or on the ceiling.
Guys, it
As you can see,
must be a conspiracy. Oh, these are lights? Galaxy lamps. That'd be cool for a basement.
Galaxy Lamp is a fantastic projector that can cast beautiful images onto the wall or ceiling of your choice.
And you can control it on your phone.
Not only does the Galaxy Lamp have 6 different settings and cool color options, but you can also do all of the controlling from your phone. And also, thanks to the horrors of modern technology,
Alexa, Galaxy lamp on.
Oh, yeah.
Stand by.
I like how he prefaced that.
ta-da!
Ooh, there's the stars.
Yes, there's the stars. Or if you like me and hate technology in general, there's a big button on the side that you can just manually press like this and flip through the different color and laser light options. And thanks to the app as well, you're able to set timers, different times for the lamp to turn on or shut off, as well
this
as rotate
outside?
and whatever else you like. And thanks to Galaxy
Whoa,
Lamps, you
that
can
looks
get in
sick.
on this offer today if you go to the link in the description at Galaxy Lamp.
That setup looks sick. Like out that with like what was that, like the outside deck or something?
Dot.
But that looks completely creepy. Large sliding glass doors cannot do that because of when I was a kid. Heck no. Had huge, like in my room I had like door-sized glass windows like that. Oh, bro, and they faced the forest.
co/Wendigoon to get your order for 15% off. That's galaxylamps.co/Wendigoon for 15% off. It really does mean the most. I hope that you enjoy. Check them out. Link in the description. Thank you for watching.
Let's go.
Bank of Souls is a concept that originated from Jewish mysticism. However, it's been adapted into several other religious theories as well.
This is Yggdrasil? This is a picture of Yggdrasil. Well, at least it comes up. Yeah, look. I'll show you right now. This is some sort of bank of souls.
According to the legend of the Bank of Souls, there is a finite amount of souls that can ever exist within human history. Specifically, this pool of souls is known as the Chamber of Guff and exists at the base of the Tree of Life. According to this legend, the Tree of Life bears fruit, and that fruit is actual human souls. Whenever a child is conceived, Gabriel reaches into the chamber, which is around the base of the tree where the fruit has fallen. He draws out a random soul, and that is passed into the new human that was just created. However, this tree has seasons of plenty and seasons of famine. In other words, there are some times when there are more people in the world than the tree can provide. According to the theory around the Bank of Souls, if someone is born or conceived at the time that there's not a soul for it, it will simply be born as a person without a soul. This is especially true.
Oh man, you guys should go watch my Lunar's Lost Treasures. Which one? And this will cover this because I don't even need to speak on this. Even though I'm going to speak in this video a lot more, so don't worry. Don't worry. See you guys in the comments saying it. Don't worry about like holding myself back from saying certain things. Don't worry. Not in this episode. Where is it? It's illusions. Yeah, look at my Lunar's Lost Treasures episode 2, cutting through illusions. I think that's the one where I bring it up. But I talk about temporary consciousness and that, because this is exactly what the Bank of Souls sounds like. It's like temporary consciousness. It's like, you know how people have been memeing like seeing certain people on the street and they'll call them NPCs. It's like art imitates reality is kind of going on here, where you can see where this is. You can kind of see where this would be true.
In the modern age, when population is at the highest that it's ever been, and the tree cannot sustain the amount of people being born. These soulless people, or NPCs, as the internet so delicately puts it,
Boom.
exist
What'd I
on
say?
Earth along with people who do have souls. And as a matter of fact, in some cases, are used specifically to test those who do have souls.
Whoa, is this last tier about to be like real shit? Because you can like find books where people... Oh, bro, this is about to be real stuff, huh? One sec, I gotta prepare myself for this. Hang on. I'm gonna make a quick cut. Okay.
Judge their worth. In other words, according to the theory, there are some people who exist and simply do not have control of their own actions, so they are purposefully made as a means to judge those who can be judged. You can follow that theory further and say that the reason you're so used to seeing people who have what is to you completely mind-numbing opinions and are constantly at opposition with you is a deliberate choice from whoever is controlling the system as a means to see how you deal with opposition. The theory has several continuing shoots.
Yo, what the fuck? That's okay, guys. While I'm freaking out, you know what? Let's just say it. If you go watch my Jordan Peterson video, there's someone who commented on there, and this is gonna tie into a bunch of other things that I can tie into, but I can't do it that much. But where a lot of people were getting they were getting the whole of what I was saying, because I wasn't denying what Jordan Peterson was saying or trying to discredit him as a established, what is he, clinical psychologist. But there are literally people on there genuinely just trying to like completely say I missed like all the points he said. Like I completely didn't understand, and it seemed like a bot thing to me, and I was like, yeah, just don't reply. But I noticed that like there's this also like thing, I've never heard it as a conspiracy theory yet, but I talked about it with those like YouTube accounts that look bought, that it seems like some of these comments are not real comments. They're just comments to be thrown in the mix to try to like cause distortion between people who actually enjoy watching your videos. So if someone comes across, but like I don't want to delete comments and like be known for deleting comments. Plus I don't really care that much. I'll just ignore them. But if you ever see these comments where someone is like deliberately just going off, like I don't know, like first, if you're someone who's creating videos and that happens, just ignore the comments. Just focus on the other ones. But oh, you want to join the video that way, huh? Is that Was that High School Musical? Anyways, back to what I was saying. If you see these comments, yeah, they're like mind-numbing. Like I really did not understand how that person said I completely, absolutely missed the whole point of what he was saying. It's like, no. And then what's funny is there was another comment that literally acknowledged that I was giving you a different perspective on how to think of it, because I can just deliver you different perspectives from any side without it being the moral good or bad kind of thing. It's like I'm just saying, oh, well, why don't you look at it this, or why can't you look at it like this? That's what I was doing in the Jordan Peterson video. I wasn't saying specifically the things he was talking about, human whatever, was wrong. I was just, yeah, you can see it for yourself if you would like to deep dive, but you can see the comment. But like just right away, nah, you completely missed the whole point. I was like, what the fuck is this person talking about?
Similar to that.
But I didn't react crazy because, boom, if the Bank of Souls is a true thing, I'm a reaction YouTuber. But then, like, off screen, yeah, you guys get it. I don't need to explain.
Coming off of it. For example, there is one side of it that says several different cults or quote-unquote satanic rings who perform human sacrifices are just doing it as a means of sending a soul back to the tree for replenishing, as well as other theories that say whenever the tree finally runs out of souls completely, that is the apocalypse and when the world will end. So yeah, soulless people are put on the world simply as morality speech checks. Try not to think about it too much. Incorruptible Saints is a
exactly. Try not to think about that too much. Exactly. Or what happened to me just now happened.
Phenomena that has been reported specifically in Roman Catholic and Orthodox churches.
Also, before he gets into this, because I just thought to keep giving you guys peace of mind. If you want peace of mind for that one, literally think how cool that kind of is, though, because then it stops you from literally taking anything too personal, which is taught in a lot of ancient philosophy or wisdom type of books, where don't take what someone like says or projects to you too personal unless you're deliberately harming someone, and then you can go about your business and like live freer in your mind rather than react to everything that happens to you in your life. So that'd be pretty cool to literally know if that is the real thing, that maybe if you feel like you're inside a game, you literally are, and certain people around you are literally put there as just tests.
According to these religions, several people have been found throughout history whose bodies have been completely untouched by decomposition. Specifically, throughout the 14 and 1600s, bodies were exhumed that had been buried for hundreds of years, and whenever they were found, it seemed as if the person was simply sleeping. This has been such a common occurrence that there's actually a rule in Orthodox common law that says a bishop has to show up and affirm that the body is in fact incorruptible. In several of the instances where an incorruptible saint was found, they were placed underneath the altar of churches, as it was shown God had favor on that person, and hopefully that favor will apply to the church. Also, for those that don't know, to be considered a saint within Orthodox and Catholic tradition, there is a set of requirements that the person has to do, and one of them is to perform a miracle. For a long time, having an incorruptible body was seen as a miracle.
Maybe for YouTube that was just a supplement. Natural. Don't worry
in itself. So if that person followed the other steps in their life that qualified them for sainthood, and then their body was found to be incorruptible, they were then affirmed as a saint. Between things like this and Saint Padre Pio Stigmata and the miracle of Lanciano, which are things I'm going to casually mention and maybe talk about in the future, this has been seen as evidence to some as proof of the Christian God. We're now breaking into the first philosophy one, which there's going to be several more of, with the God of the Gaps never existed. Now, it's kind of debated where the phrase God of the Gaps first originated.
Yeah, what the heck is this?
Nietzsche said in one of his writings, specifically I believe it was in On Priest, that he said whenever there is a gap in human understanding, Christians specifically fill it with God, and that's where God comes from. So according to Nietzsche, God isn't real, and whenever people say there is a God, it's just because humanity can't explain something, and God makes for a good scapegoat. The other place the phrase may have come from is from Henry Drummond, who was an evangelist who also accused the idea of God of the Gaps as being a lazy write-off for understanding. Drummond said that Christians constantly have these gaps in their knowledge that they choose to fill with God, and that was the wrong way of going about it.
Oddly enough, you know, there's good people in definitely all religions that just want to hold their beliefs and free to believe whatever they want. And then there's the ones that you know are corrupt, because it's like both sides of the coin. So I could really see this being a thing.
According to Drummond, God either has to be the God of everything, or he just simply doesn't exist.
Like, I see comments from you guys that talk about, like, you know, I'm Catholic, blah, blah, blah. And just to clarify, and like, yeah, see, don't worry, I know you're the good peoples. There's definitely, you know, the corruption that exists, of course.
In other words, we can't have God be this spontaneous miracle worker who shows up to fill in things that we can't quite explain, and then explain the rest away as natural processes of science. In other words, God is either absolute or he doesn't exist, and that's what God of the Gaps never existed is trying to get across. See, the whole God of the Gaps mentality is believed by many to be part of the reason that Christianity and belief itself has declined so much in the last century. In other words, before modern science, there really wasn't a way to explain the world outside of some supernatural entity. But now science is at a near complete point in understanding the world around us. Those gaps have gotten smaller. So people who apply God to those gaps have caused God to become smaller. This is why the concept is considered a bad thing by both evangelists and atheists. The reason that it's this low on the iceberg is because it implies that if there is a divine creator or some God above us, then it has to be 100% all-encompassing in every aspect of our lives. This is sort of the antithesis to the agnostic point of view. There can't be a God who works some of the time and then everything else is science, because if we just apply God to those little miracles, we'll eventually figure out that they're all different rules of the world that we live in. So if we were created, then a creator had to inspire and create every single one of those rules, meaning that the entire human experience is completely curated, which is either very comforting or very terrifying depending on who you are.
Depending on who you are, exactly. I think he gave the comfort enough. Wow, I paused it at 10:10. That's very true.
From humans is the rather depressing thought that there is a good chance a lot of biofuel comes from humans. Now, while with crude oil, it could take, you know, a really long time for the matter of humans to compress into it, it is not a secret that humans go through methogenesis, where their body produces methane, which is absolutely a fuel. So the theory is saying that perhaps the methane gas that you use to heat your home isn't entirely dinosaur fuel and could potentially be one of the 108 billion people who have died on this planet. And of course, some have taken this theory farther to say that perhaps those in power have figured out a quick way to make crude oil and that humans are being farmed as the resource. Feelings auto-suppression relates to a sort of
that would be freaking crazy, but I could see it.
Global desensitization that has taken place over the last several decades. So to make it more personal, remember the first time that you saw a scary face pop up on YouTube or in a movie and you were a little kid and it scared you really bad, but then after you saw more and more over and over, you kind of quit caring? And you know how that same thing also happened with human suffering? Like the first time you may have heard about a dangerous attack against a group of people, you were very worried, but then it just became such a common thing you quit caring. That constant loop of negative emotions can cause you to suppress them whenever they come to the surface, which is a totally natural human response. However, when this response happens across the entire population for years on end, the results can be a little concerning, particularly on the next generations moving forward.
What is he about to kind of get into the whole, like, where it's people would rather, oh, this braid is super itchy. People would rather, like, take out their phones and record someone getting beat up rather than help them? Is that the kind of thing? That kind of idea?
In other words, children today are not nearly as worried or concerned about world events as perhaps the generation before them was at their age. because this constant stream of negativity has served to cause a worldwide auto-suppression of negative emotions. Not only that, but it's been shown that apathy or simply holding in emotions can cause feelings of depression as well as illnesses if gone on for too long. So
In a lot of ancient books, though, they tell you really that you should feel emotions and then let them go. So I don't think it's a bad thing in a way. Now, I really can't see this as a bad thing. Okay. Here's what I'm going to tell you I don't see this as a bad thing when it comes into the grander scheme of world events. And that thing is because most of the world events that happen will not be changed. If you think about it. Like that's what I'm going to say. I 100% believe this. Because it's something I talked about before where if people were so triggered over maybe see this is where I say a divine hand has to touch down in something like that where the divinity is in the people, where if everyone came together and rose up, I'm not suggesting anything because I don't want to be unlive, but I'm just saying like the masses are lost. Mostly people who try to form a group are lost. I feel like even protesters are lost. So it's like this auto-suppression over like, you know, the generation. It's kind of like, it's not really bad. It's kind of like a, fuck it, we all gonna die anyways kind of mindset that they have, no matter the world events. Because it's like, whoever's in charge of this or in power is going to have plan A, B, C, 3, D, 85 through Z in preparation for if things don't go exactly to how they wrote plans. So it's like, is it really a reality that the people have the power? And if that's true, the only way we'd ever see that is if everyone actually came together to move Earth, whatever shape this is, if they really wanted to enact change. But it's like, is that really ever like a possible reality? I believe in things possible, but that's a steep thing. So I don't actually think this one's like a bad thing, but I could see how it is. But like, it's like you can't stop most of the world events unless you got like bodies of people or super influential. So I don't know. I'm hoping to do certain things like that with my channel. Like real talk, I've talked about this on the Lunar's Lost Treasure. So it's like, it's not even saying I'm hoping to do something, I'm doing. So we'll see.
Similar to earlier on the Iceberg where I said that things like toxoplasmosis has changed the whole of human history, simply disregarding our basic human emotions has quite potentially changed the course of humanity forever. Adult film stars leeching your energy is the natural conclusion of several things that I've talked about.
I do have to mute what I said. Bro, I have to go back and mute it. Crap.
Up until this point. Remember the succubus that I talked about way back? Essentially these demonic or spiritual entities that want to steal your life force. And I believe it was in the last year I talked about erotic energy that you literally give off whenever you give off those emotions. Well, in the 21st century, what do you think would be the most effective way for those entities to steal that energy from you? That's right, the internet. And according to this, the energy that you feel being drained from you afterwards is quite literally energy that has been drained from you. Earlier in the Iceberg, I talked about Kundalini energy and how it can be stolen from someone over a distance. Well, this is saying that perhaps through the digital screen, it has been stolen from thousands, if not millions of people for the past few decades, and no one's the wiser. Virus 23 is kind of the predecessor to things like,
I mean, I don't even have to speak on that. If you're someone who watches, you'll be able to tell.
Like the despair code. According to various board posts, Virus 23 has traced its way all the way back to old Cold War Russian documents. Specifically, documents that were researching memetic entities. There's this entire theory that's worked its way around the globe for a while around things like shared consciousness and shared stories. I've talked about earlier on this iceberg, and I know I keep saying that, but this is the final tier and it does put the bow on a lot of theories. But I talked earlier about how someone on one side of the planet can develop these spontaneous ideas at the same time that someone on the other side of the planet does as well.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't only seen in things like technology, but is also seen in things like theories and ideas in philosophy. And because things like human thought patterns and memory aren't fully understood, there's a belief that this exists in a sort of cloud that encompasses everyone at once. So if this...
A very good game that shows this is, I think, Persona, the Persona series. When I watched Persona 5, I was like, bro, they explained it so well. They explained it so dope.
Does exist as a sort of shared memory bank, is it possible to transmit a virus through it? Virus 23 works as a self-replicating mental contagion. In other words, once one person is conscious of it, that causes them to think of it. It then goes to this sort of cloud of human understanding and is continued to pass down through the line.
If that is true, that is scary, bro. Because that's like that thing. I don't remember who his name. Was it Joe Dispenza? I don't know if it's Joe Dispenza. It's one of these many spiritual dudes. They had, I don't remember who it was, but I was watching them on stage, basically a live show, give, you know, what spiritual consultants and stuff do. And he said basically thoughts work like this. So like, you know, whether it's a negative thought or a good thought, you just control your mind, control the direction, you know, mindset is key, blah blah, that kind of stuff, motivational speaker type stuff. So he yelled to the crowd, he was like this: I bet I can get you to not think about this or think about this. And I don't remember if I'm remembering who it was, right? But it'll be amazing if someone actually gets this. But he basically said, okay, ready? You guys ready? Don't think of a pink I fucked it up. Don't think of a pink elephant. And I guarantee you right now you thought of a pink elephant. If you've seen an elephant or know what an elephant is from a kid, you thought of the pink elephant. That's what Virus 23 is kind of reminding me of. So that would be fucking horrible, because that's why it just has to be like, you have to have a strong ass willpower, really good control over your mind, and to not believe Virus 23 exists, because your beliefs create reality. So hopefully you're not a sucker to believe this exists, or you would start thinking about it. Like me right now, I'm not thinking about it because like I kind of put the conspiracies in a certain bank of my mind. But that's basically like that. It's like I can basically be like, don't think of water right now, and you probably think of water. Somewhere in your mind, an image of where you've seen water just randomly pops up. So that would suck. That would really suck.
Some have even said that this virus was originally started by Cicada, which, if you'll remember, like back in Tier 2, were the people who hosted that sort of nationwide scavenger hunt. And while some think merely hearing the words Virus 23 is enough to transmit the virus, I don't believe that is what the theory is going with. See, with a lot of those documents and the idea of mimetic entities, it particularly is saying that it can be hidden within an unassuming thing. In other words, it could be a story, it could be a character, it could be a phrase, or whatever. Some random stories or media or folklore or whatever could exist as these sort of trip mines throughout the human understanding that, whenever stepped on, could cause, I don't know, paranoia or depression or some negative thing. I mean, I imagine it's not positive. I imagine if you get Virus 23, you don't become like an upstanding citizen all of a sudden. What makes this, if it was to be real, more threatening than the Despair Code is you could at least see the Despair Code coming, whereas Virus 23 could literally be anything. Pancreas denial. Have you ever seen your pancreas? That's what I thought. Moving on. I'm just kidding. That's not the theory, but it would be really funny if it was. According to the theory, your pancreas is actually your third chakra and is used to filter things like negative energy. Supposedly, the powers that be that know about the power of the pancreas don't want the common person to have access to the pancreas's true capabilities. So they have done things like store negative energy and...
This is why I said just get a simple chakra manual, and you would see which chakras they would probably be more worried about you unlocking.
our food, in the media we consume, and other nefarious means of anti-pancreas propaganda as a means to stifle the human spirit. And if you've heard of someone getting their pancreas removed, it's simply because their filter was too clogged with all of the negative energy in the world. Patterns manipulation in itself is really broad, but I'm going to look at a specific avenue of it. Essentially, it's saying that there are patterns that exist within thought and reality as a whole. In other words, everything from
Sacred geometry?
how you think to the world you exist in revolves around these certain patterns. Several people who experiment with
Manifolds.
psychotropic drugs say that while under the influence of them, they begin to see patterns and other designs creep up in the world around them.
Shit.
A lot
Okay, actually, yeah. You know what? I'll just be honest with you guys and say that, yeah. When I was on shrooms, 100%. You close your eyes and you start seeing weird sacred geometry. I was seeing like things begin to connect and fold and be squares and be like color, and like it looked like I was witnessing the fucking Fibonacci sequence everywhere. Just like everything is really patterns and sacred geometry and weird shit. So yeah.
of this relates back to things like sacred geometry. And human thought patterns are called just that because people tend to think in regards to what they know. In other words, if you are trying to get someone to believe a different truth or the truth you want them to, you begin by starting with things that they already know as fundamental truth and working your way from there.
Yeah.
Because human brains exist in these realm of patterns.
Yeah.
If I was to just run up to you and say that Bigfoot's in my backyard, you may say, "You're crazy. Why are you telling me this? Get out of my house." But if I was to approach you and say, there's several species of gorillas that have existed that kind of just disappeared from the biological tree, and every time that we go searching in the forest we find new species of monkey here and there who are normally in endangered populations, well, who's to say that one of these species of gorillas didn't get really tall and they just migrated their way north from South America, and now one of them's in my backyard? You'll still probably tell me to get out of your house.
You still tell me to get out of your house. But I see the point he's trying to make there. That's exactly how someone said you need to break down people who have strong religious beliefs too. You need to know their religion and be able to basically relate it to what you're about to say. So there's a lot of books on manipulation and stuff like that to do. Oh, patterns manipulation. So we're probably going to get into that part of it. But you would need to break down their religion from within, also knowing what you know. I also believe you shouldn't get other people to try to believe in what you believe in. Just believe in what you want to believe in, and that's final.
But what I did is I worked off of something that you know and then changed it from there. Therefore, by manipulating the patterns of your own thought, I got you to a conclusion that you never would have accepted otherwise. The theory is saying that perhaps this same manipulation could exist within reality. Concepts like magic or illusion can be performed in legitimacy if that person can manipulate the patterns reality works within. In a sense, this is similar to a lot of what modern science and chemistry have been able to do in themselves. They have understood how the fundamental world works around them and then manipulated it within its own rules to get it to a place that you would have been executed for in the Dark Ages. And if I'm able to convince you about Bigfoot, then what could be possible if someone really tapped into the patterns of the world around us?
Exactly.
Ascension blacklist is implying that...
And in theory, again, you know what? I just want to wrap this around to this bigger conspiracy that I'm creating. In theory, people like Wendigoon, I could say myself, but, I just removed myself from this. Wendigoon, name anyone. I'm thinking of a few names. Maybe Lord Bung. That's the recent one. What's his name? Local 58 TV, the one who does the analog horror. They are examples of people tapping into this pattern manipulation. Because manipulation doesn't have to be necessarily bad. Nor does like the term mind control has so much bad mind connotation. But that's what it makes me think about. Think about the mind control of a red light, right? You would hope if you were a driver, right? What do you hope when you go out to drive? Or you're driving maybe even in the passenger of a car and someone else is driving. Red lights, green lights, and yellow, or Yeah, it's red, yellow. I'm tripping. Pretty much. Red, yellow, green. Red, jello, green is that what you said? Red, jello, green. All stoplights, stop signs, yield signs, all of that is mind control. And basically, that's like, it's a form of mind control. So I think I've talked about this in one of the other tiers. You would hope that we could just change it to patterns instead of mind control, pattern manipulation. You would hope that when you came to a red light, that the car behind you, the person in there, would also see like the red on your car, or could possibly also see the stoplight. And the mind control would trigger their brain, oh, okay, I need to slow down now. That's what pattern manipulation makes me think about, is that whole concept too, because you can tie them all in and weave them all together. So yeah, imagine that. Like, imagine the mind control of stop signs, stoplights, and all that shit didn't work, or some people like bypass that, which some people do, people who like to go vroom vroom and go fast. But like, imagine that the mind control doesn't work when people don't pay attention to it. So like car accidents, stuff like that, they don't, like in those, not all car accidents happen around that, but like maybe like what the hell are they called, like, hit and runs and stuff like that, or like they brake too late and stuff like that because like the mind control didn't reach them, stuff like that. But yeah, there we go, we'll move on from that one.
There are some people who will not be allowed to ascend to the next plane of existence. Think about it this way: if souls do exist as these eternal entities, and if things like reincarnation exist, then who's to say that some can't remember past instances or have a greater understanding of the world around us? So obviously, these people who may have a higher plane of knowledge than the rest of us could have grudges against people here on Earth. Ascension Blacklist is postulating that perhaps the purpose of secret societies like the Illuminati, or insert other creepy shadow government thing, is to decide who will and will not be allowed in eternity. Getting into theories like this is fun because there's entire things talking about the NPCs from earlier, how they are used specifically to target the people who have been blacklisted, and that in some cases the people who have been blacklisted can be such a positive influence to those NPCs that they get back on the entry list. But the short of it for this video is saying that secret societies or secret organizations who have a better understanding of the eternity and of the human soul have a say in who is and is not allowed in.
They don't have a better understanding. It's all in you. They understand that you are just as powerful as them, and no one here has any real power. It's just illusion. You start realizing that. Maybe that's like a part of some of the things that Wendigoon won't say in a video. No, but I know you can say this, so like, because I see like the others, like spiritual YouTubers or whatever, say it, so it doesn't matter, so that I'm saying it. But that's a very, very real thing. Also, I've talked about past life stuff, so see, Wendigoon is a lucid. He said he is a lucid dreamer. He can do the whole out of body stuff. I know Wendigoon knows more than he's letting on. I can tell. He probably wants to get into it. I'll leave it alone.
Oikeiosis, and according to the internet, that is how it's pronounced, I looked one up this time, is closely related to ideas of Stoicism. So without getting into hundreds of years of philosophizing, Stoicism is essentially the idea that the purpose of life is a perfection of the human soul. In other words, life itself is a sort of test for how one will be judged in the afterlife. Now, if you're familiar with most religions, this isn't a crazy far out there concept, or at least you've heard of it before. However, Oikeiosis is where the interesting part comes in. Oikeiosis is roughly translated to relation, or someone's relationship with something else. Applied to Stoicism, Oikeiosis is saying that one of the chief concepts of humanity is that humanity's perfection is defined by its interaction with others. So if one is to achieve this quote-unquote perfect soul, it has to be through actions of charity and goodness to other people. The reason it's on this iceberg is due to something called Dasein's teachings, or Dasein. Dasein is a German concept that was brought up around the 19th century that said Oikeiosis is falling apart because of humanity's increased isolation. In other words, humans over
I see this, but there's also things to prove that this isn't true. But 1 sec, I'm gonna make the cut now because we're 44 minutes in. All right, so I'll be back in like 1 second. And we are back. Okay, let's bang the rest of this out.
over the years have become more self-centered and self-interested, and that has caused the very fabric of their souls to fall apart because they are no longer performing acts of goodness or charity with others.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you right now, do not let this affect you, because that's exactly the thing that's breaking down, which is community. Things are becoming more self-sufficient, or people like living the van life, or kind of like living off-grid by themselves, things like that. Like, you don't have to completely do that, but going within yourself. Okay, I don't want to talk about controversial things in religion, but from things I've found from the Bible, it talks about going within to find God within yourself, like you and God are within the same. So, like, when you give to yourself, you are giving back to the world because everything is connected. So it's like if you want to be a part of community, or like help animals, or just do things that you think are helping, whatever your beliefs may be. Focus on your self-mastery first so you can do those things. You know what I'm saying? But don't think if you're someone who just likes focusing on themselves or whatever that you're having soul destruction. No, because that's like, okay, you know how like a video game developer tries to, like, when something comes out for a video game, they try to give a little bit for everybody, like the people who want to solo play the game, or the people who want to group up, or the people who like the crafting aspects of it. Like, I'm thinking of an MMO. Like, it's like, if everyone believes in divinity or a higher power, then the shift will go, like the shift on the planet will go into certain ways if it was meant to be about community. You see a lot of people spiritually awakening now and focusing on themselves, actually bettering their lives, like getting out and being better. And it's actually a really beautiful thing. So to hear something like this is kind of crazy. Don't let this like get into your mind and try to like fuck with you. If you're someone who's solo, I might be actually not overreacting. I might be like reading into this one too much without hearing it, 'cause I feel like I've been a little bit unfocused for this one.
Because they're more invested in their own devices. A lot of applications of this come down to anti-tech stuff and, like iPhone bad. But in short, it's saying that partial, if not all of humanity has been doomed because we've quit striving for that human perfection. For soul removal.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what I thought. So that one can completely be denied because humanity will always be flawed. And that was proved in, this has been proved like multiple times that, and even with I have to literally, okay, so this is where, it's crazy because I just read a comment where the person was like, I subbed to you knowing that you weren't just blabbering nonsense. And I don't want to just say humanity is flawed and then not elaborate on that, but I kind of have to and want to, because there's stuff. Okay. Pretty much that is the purpose of the whole self-mastery, is because you realize that nothing in humanity can ascend you to the next level. So it's actually wild, distracting, and illusionary to believe that anything here will get you to the next level, because everything here is material. So you're forced to go within your own heart and soul anyways, in your mind, to get out of here. Basically, it's like, I can't take this with me when I die. I can't take this with me when I die. I can't take this with me. So you know how he said iPhone bad? No, it's not like that. It's like, it's more, well, like according to like how that belief was, is like, this is me breaking down the thing, but this is just me kind of breaking it down so it doesn't fuck with your mind if you're like focused on yourself. I don't know how it ties into the whole iPhone bad thing, but it's like, regardless, is like, you shouldn't be too attached to material things because you cannot take any of it with you. No money, no nothing. So it's like, with that thought process at hand, you like nothing human would save you. Not like it didn't matter how many animals you care for or how many people you save or how many like depending. Actually, the people you save part, if there's love within it, if you're doing it like for genuinely the love of the soul and not some gain. So that's what I believe. If like, you know, like in my videos, I'm actually trying to, I'm not trying because the result is it's actually working exactly how I intended it. Like enjoying the videos, bringing people peace of mind, and much love and moonlight, spreading love and light. I'm doing it genuinely from the start of my channel. It's been about that. So it's like, if it's genuine help for creatures or things like that, and it's not like something to get like by or in a way where there's like no thing to it, that emotion will carry on with you to the afterlife, because then you tie in the chakras and everything is energy, and energy will follow you, and love will get you, I feel like, into the next step or whatever this may be, outside into the next matrix. I have no idea, but anything human will not save your ass. And I 100% believe love and emotions that manifest here, if they're of higher vibration, are not a human thing. I just think humans can experience them. Like it's already put in you because you're a divine drop. You're of divine light and shadow. So like you would have to have the things in you that a god would. I feel like I'm too all over the place with this one. So I like to do this when I feel like I'm backing myself in the corner. I like to just go, never mind, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Whatever makes sense to me. Good luck with that.
Is the idea that every human is born with a soul, but it can be taken from you. Not only through things like occult rituals, which those also count, but even things like traumatic events or just simple disbelief can cause pieces of your soul to whittle away over time. This leaves the individual open to attack, where negative spirits can come and fill in that place that they left open within their soul.
I used to believe in this. I don't know how I feel now. I used to believe in things like this not as a conspiracy. Like I used to ponder on if this could be true.
And that's where things like possession come from. Not only that, but this theory says that wayward souls that have been separated from their human host float around as sparse energy, and in large enough amounts can achieve forms like that of a ghost or a cryptid. In other words, the reason things like old asylums are so haunted is because so many people have had pieces of their soul chipped away at them in there. Ooh. That those pieces now just wander the area looking for their human host. And the only way to prevent things like negative souls or negative entities from attacking you is to do things like ensure a positive environment and energy for yourself, and continue to believe in things, because if you don't use that space for your soul, there's a chance that something else will. Real humans died millennia ago is saying
more belief on the whole. Believe what you believe in and kind of don't, like, yeah, and just like use every aspect of what your soul gives you.
That perhaps the way we currently exist is not humanity's highest form. You know how you hear about things like the pyramid or structures like Atlantis, and people always say they had to be these super geniuses to build all of that? Well, it's saying that perhaps while technology has increased over the centuries, human thought has decreased, to the degree that us as we function now would be near unrecognizable from our ancestors. How unrecognizable, you may ask? Well, some have pointed to things that I've mentioned earlier in this iceberg, like statues of reptilians in Middle Eastern tombs. Or even old legends of things like elves or mermaids could just be other forms of humanity when we were at a higher function. Or there's even some depictions of these like really big people who used to be able to make these really cool structures because they were really tall and strong. And I'm going to contain myself now, and I'm not going to say it, so we're just going to move on. Artifice predence relates back to the concept.
Yeah. Bro, I love how he does that, because that feels like such a reflection of how I'd be doing things. Like, yeah. I love how people see him as Papa Wendigoon, right? I see him as Brother Wendigoon. But bruh, I love that.
Of the Great Cycle that I've mentioned a few times up until now. It points out the weird concept that in the human record, there seems to be these pieces of artificial construction that have shown up before we started using them. Essentially, some formed metals and elements have been found that have led the way for human innovation, but now we have to manufacture, so it's kind of weird that they were there to begin with. Also, remember some of those things I talked about earlier in the iceberg, like how microchips or fuses have been found in ancient pottery? Or the idea like structures like pyramids and aqueducts were seemingly discovered and then forgotten and then rediscovered. This all relates back to the concept of the Great Cycle and says that perhaps the previous people or whatever existed in our stead left behind some pieces either on purpose or accident that were the foundation of our cycle, and so on and so forth. Hiring a hitman on yourself is something else. This is more of a thought concept than anything else. And while I think it's funny that it's this low on the iceberg, it may be just a little bit misplaced. So it's known that in several religions or spiritual practices, committing unexist is generally frowned upon. So the hiring a hitman on yourself asks the philosophical question, is it the action or the intent that would condemn somebody? With some stating that hiring a hitman on yourself would be a way to subvert the consequences of the thing that would eventually accomplish. Or if you were ever just bored and wanted to make your life more challenging, you could just do that anyway and then try to survive, and it would make your week a lot more interesting. Roman Empire Still Rules the World originally comes from the author Philip K. Dick.
Tell me down below, would any of you do that? Just put the timestamp and put yes or no. And then you could put a normal comment.
Which I talked about earlier on this iceberg. A lot of people believe that he was more in tune with the underhanded goings on in the world than most people. And in one of the stories he wrote later in his life, he said that the Roman Empire never collapsed, and instead several of its senators went into hiding and became the foundation for modern New World orders or secret societies. In other words, they didn't maintain their population or space, but they did maintain their influence. There's even a book written called Descent that talked about how the Roman Empire went into the caverns of the hollow earth and exist as a quite literal underbelly of the world's government at large. And also, if you wanted to say that, whenever the Roman Empire fell, that's when like the Vatican and the Catholic Church really took off. And they got a whole lot of influence. So, fractalization is very closely related to pattern manipulation. And
funny enough, yeah, you see this type of stuff on, stuff that looks like this on shrooms. I have videos if you want to go see them on my channel. Just look up lunarwaslost and like my shroom experience, and you'll see what I talk about. I've talked about some wild shit. I don't know if I talked about the shapes you see, but
fractalization is believed to be the patterns of reality itself. People who experiment with very heavy psychotropic drugs like DMT and LSD say that whenever they're experiencing the high, they begin to see the world or a sort of plane of fractals. In other words, these geometric patterns that separate the world at large into these shapes. Some refer to this plane of existence as hyperreality, and there's some who even believe that this is the true state of being and the human condition is just numb to it.
I don't like to think this for one reason. I enjoyed seeing this and didn't at the same time. Like, it was cool to almost see how everything is one working machine. Like, because it's really like, oh, this exists around us. Well, that's just cool to me. It's like nothing to really freak out about, because then when you come to, or you just natural, it gives you more of an appreciation for life. But one thing that like I try to control a lot about my mind is not to see the synchronicity. No, okay, I try to see the synchronicity between things. You can obviously see this one is hard for me to talk about because I don't like to think that is like, I would like to think that the condensed human experience is more of what like it could be like okay, like I would like to think that the fractals are the smaller parts, are like the atoms. Like this is behind at a like smaller level, and then, well, of course, like human is a more condensed version because you're in a carbon unit, but like it's the condensed reality. But it's like, I'd hate to think that the higher reality looks like that. You know, like the biblically correct angels. This is on like that level of that. And I'm like, hey, if everyone's seeing it like that, then I guess you can't deny that it's true. But it's like, if you died, would you want to really be in a fucking vortex of fucking colors? And like, I wouldn't. I would literally, you know, I don't know what my ideal heaven would look like, but the whole thing is just like, I don't want a bunch of fucking colors and okay.
In other words, we exist in a dull state of mind on sort of the first level of our reality, and doing things that cause your mind to leave that reality lets you see the world for what it truly is, or at least a different realm that exists around us. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. Things like this really interest me, but I'm also very, very dumb to, and it's something in the future that I'm going to research more. Well, I mean, not like I'm not going there, but it's something that I'm going to look into more, because some of the stuff here, as someone who reads about this stuff all the time, really freaks me out, and I mean that in the best way. Paleolithic deep state is another one of those natural.
It freaks me out too because I've been there, like, and it makes you see the beauty of everything. Coming from me, take it from me, it makes you see the beauty of everything, but at the same time, it's fucking trippy because it's like, you know, this is one of those things where I'm gonna hold myself back and not get into, because I could talk about that forever. I could talk about any of these things forever. Maybe not the Romans and the whole Hollow Earth, but yeah. And again, as I will keep saying, and thank you, because some people have DM'd me things they would like me to make videos on separately from this, and I will definitely do it. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Conclusions to things mentioned earlier on the iceberg. So remember how I talked about how Neanderthals supposedly didn't die, they just kind of went away and did their own thing for a while? Well, this is saying perhaps they went underground, maybe even literally, and began the structures of the world's government and society as we know it now. Now, according to this, they wouldn't still be in the state we know of them in the historical record. If Homo sapien adapted, then the Neanderthal would adapt as well. But with things like their disappearance from the historical record, as well as odd cave art that shows these kind of human things existing around humans as we know them, implies to some that maybe they achieved some higher form of being, whether that being an underground deep state like I mentioned earlier as the first New World Order, or maybe as some ascended form of person. Also, while researching this, I saw a theory that said Cain is the leader of them, and that he never died, and that he's leading the Neanderthal New World Order, and I had nowhere to add that in, but that is too cool not to, and we're moving on. Depression overriding seems really simple at first, but it's the spiritual implications that put it on this level. If you are depressed or sad or any negative emotion, and you manage to find a way within your head to flip that around into a positive emotion, that may not seem like a lot to you, but if you view things like energy and spiritualism as tangible things, then you just committed a form of spiritual alchemy.
Alchemy. Bro, this last tier, these are conspiracies. Guys, I'm just going to continue. No, like, I'll like speak on what I have to say about this one. But, bro, these are very true things that you can try yourself. Like, if you meditate, you can, it's alchemy, yes. It's basically like turning dirt into gold, or whatever the saying is. You can literally flip, and you will notice your mind switch. It's the power. I like this. I can't believe these are conspiracies. These are written in books as like proven things. You know what I'm saying? So it's like weird to know I've studied all these books, and then, you know, you hear it here as a conspiracy. That makes me think like it's called a conspiracy to again break up that information, where it's like we're gonna put it like it's gonna either be on a conspiracy iceberg list or whatever, to break up someone thinking it's real. Let me see if this is the word too before I say it. Perceptible. Oh, that okay. Well, okay. I wanted to use tangible, but that's like by grasp, like perceptible by touch. But like, use it in the way where you can like grasp these ideas. It's like they do it so you can't like grasp it being a real thing. So like someone will come across the conspiracy theory iceberg and see depression overriding on, maybe if their mind is actually strong enough, like for people who are like optimistic or like open-minded, like many of us watching this video, that they wouldn't see this and think of it like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory, and actually try to attempt doing something like this and discover a whole new world of like things, if you get what I'm saying. So it's pretty like, it's one of the best things. It shouldn't even be on a conspiracy theory list, because then it like takes away from it.
It relates to the idea that humans are a much more powerful creature than most of us realize.
Yes.
And if we're
Yes.
so concerned with things like the energy and the spiritual and the extra dimensions around us and everything else, we take for granted the little sort of miracles that we can perform. Things like turning a negative energy into a positive one. And if physical energy, as we understand it in physics, cannot be created or destroyed, then perhaps spiritual energy cannot be created or destroyed either, only converted. And by doing something as wild as converting negative energy, you're exercising a form of supernatural powers.
Yes.
So if you...
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, this one isn't even a conspiracy, guys. I'm going to go ahead and say this is completely true. It's completely true. This is crazy. See, that's what I mean. It's funny to see it on this list as, like he said, it's a form of spiritual alchemy. But I love how it's on this list of depression overriding. But that's pretty much it. All these mental illnesses are just, like, besides the ones that are actually genetic defects, are in your head. So it's like, don't let a therapist tell you you have depression. Always deny it, and you'll see it disappear. Like this is basically alchemy. Yeah, it's crazy that he said spiritual alchemy in this. It's like, you can find books if you need it to be proven by like psychologists, or you need like you need more. If you're one of those people that are like the truth seeker, go to the source, find the books, because there's like, just like when this whole thing was going on in the world, the whole sickness, how certain doctors were being suppressed and even losing their jobs, but these are like well-respected doctors and stuff for trying to speak their mind and come out against things going on. These books are the same. There are like psychologists and all these people who have proven this, but it's hidden in books, and that's why you got to find it in books. You probably find it, the internet's a tool. You can find it, just be careful with it, because you just got to sift through a lot of misinformation thrown in there. But this is exactly what I say, is like even Jim Carrey, right? Yeah. When he talked about depression, and you hear other people talk about it too. Like, he was the first one I heard, and then after I heard him say it, I swear it was like I started seeing videos of everyone saying it. But if you even look at the word deep or depression, it sounds like deep resting, depression. Now I'm saying it like deep rest, but it's a point where your mind needs deep rest, so you can start reframing it as not a negative thing, but that you need deep rest, and that is a form of there we go. Whoo, that was a mouthful, but I felt really good about this one.
You want to get really out there with all our postulations, take something like Virus 23 or the solar plexus clown glider or whatever, and imagine those mimetic agents that are meant to harm you. Well, if you have the capability to convert that into a positive force, then there's no telling what's possible now, is there? Incorings are referring to the absolutes that exist in human culture. In other words, take all the human cultures that exist around the world who for a long time never had contact with each other. You will always see some absolutes, things like weaponry, religion, language, or things like statues or burial sites or just monuments in general. For whatever reason, it seems like these things are engraved on people as a whole. You could view this as a sort of puzzle. If we're to figure out what our purpose on Earth is or what existence means as a whole, then maybe we have the pieces to figure it out, and everyone has their own pieces. We just haven't really put it together yet. So let's take that another step forward with all the weird theories we've talked about to this point, and think about something like the Great Cycle, which I'm going to keep mentioning because it's really cool. Think about how often things like pyramids supposedly pop up through the cycles, or things like human history traveling along the same path. If one was to truly believe in things like reincarnation and the idea that we are being tested over and over again to figure out what we're supposed to do,
Wow.
maybe if someone can throw all of this together, it would break the cycle. Soy Grand Theory, because I know you've been waiting.
That one was such a fucking cool. I don't even know if I have anything to even comment on that one. That one was just beautiful. I think this is by far the best tier, bro. Hands down, it's the best tier.
For the finale of the government-sanctioned weaponized femboys, and here it is. Soy Grand Theory is saying that the soyification of society isn't even reliant on soy. It's solely reliant on the cultural shift caused by it. In other words, the effects of soy has caused permanent damage to the human population that cannot be reversed, and the influence of soy products on humanity will lead to a totalitarian femboy empire.
I'm not gonna lie to y'all. This is the one theory that confuses me. And wasn't he afraid to say it at first, or was it the femboy part? I don't get this soy grand theory. So, but like I've seen some of your comments explaining it to me. It's like soy increases. What is the? Can I ask you, my lovely girlfriend? Estrogen. Yeah. So soy increases estrogen in the body. So. So there's an increase in soy products. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about this soy grand theory, but it would be really funny if that was happening. Just because, could you imagine seeing society looking like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5?
You're welcome. Golden Rules of Nature is related to the 5 basic golden rules of
Fibonacci sequence.
nature. The idea is for something to survive within nature, it has to have balance, growth, connection, harmonization, and love. Now that sounds weird, but let's break that down. You have to be balanced in the way you live. You can't be one way or the other. And this applies not only to humans, but things in nature as a whole. You have to grow. If you're stagnant for too long, you'll be dead. And you have to be connected to the world around you, because isolation also leads to death. You have to harmonize with the world around you, because if you take too much or are too violent, that will eventually come back on you.
Yep.
And the love is saying that there has to be a passion or drive, because depression is a killer. So that's kind of weird to have that little slice of life knowledge this low on the iceberg. But the implications of it is, if the physical realm is representative of the spiritual realm, then perhaps those 5 rules also apply to the spiritual. If one is not balanced, grown, connected, harmonized, and in love with their spiritual lifestyle, then that leads to a spiritual death. And since things like spiritualism aren't exactly exemplified in the modern age, this is saying that because we're not following those 5 rules, society as a whole is spiritually dying, and will, I'm sure, lead to something bad in the future, because we are not treating spiritual existence in the same way we treat physical existence.
Wow. And what he said there was basically what I was touching on with that whole the Oikeiosis one. Basically was, I was trying to say that because the whole, if you see what has happened lately, there's been a massive increase in spiritual, just people saying they're spiritual, yada yada, and the whole consciousness shift, right? And I think that's the part of the whole. If you look at my universal laws playlist, I talk about it. The law of, is it? Let me just look right now. But basically, what I'm saying, the law I'm searching for is that how he said those laws are a reflection of the higher, like, planes. I think it's, there's law of mentalism. I think it's correspondence, but I don't want to be wrong. Oh, you could use the law of cause and effect too, but basically the higher planes affect the lower, so those golden rules, blah blah blah. But you can see how the whole shift took place on the planet, where now it seems like everyone is spiritual and everyone's coming out as conscious, and like it's moving towards a certain direction. It's almost like the seasons are naturally turning it out. But because there was a point of spiritual decline, now because of that decline, that event that he talked about where it's like something big and bad would happen, it actually didn't. Instead, the event that happened was now you see damn near every time you turn your head, someone talking about fucking astrology and space rocks and gemstones. So it's like that event didn't happen, this one did, where it's like a golden age of figure yourself out, self-mastery. Boom, we're done.
We are now down to the final 5 terms of the conspiracy theory iceberg, and I saved these 5 for a particular reason. I think they're not only some of the biggest overall topics, but it seems like a fitting place to close this iceberg on. God's ego death in research is, I think, probably the most misinterpreted one on the entire iceberg. Okay. Everywhere I looked in research for this, people were hyper-focusing on the ego term. See, ego, as it's understood in psychology, is the self, or it's the idea of oneself. So in that sense, you would think ego death, as it's often called within the hero's journey of storytelling, would mean the destroying of one's own opinion or perspective. In other words, if you have a character in a story who has very hard set fundamental beliefs, and then something happens to them and they change those beliefs, that is considered an ego death.
Basically referring to you also.
However, what I think this iceberg is getting across, because everything else on the iceberg kind of points that direction, is the other definition of ego death. An ego death or ego loss is what it's considered in very, very hardcore drug trips whenever someone's soul leaves their person. Or even more specifically, whenever your soul escapes your mind and your concept of thought and existence. In other words, it's separating part of yourself from another part of yourself. Here, when it says God's ego death, it's not talking about a change of heart God had. It's talking about God's separation of God himself. Think about it this way. Remember when I was talking about the God of the gaps didn't exist earlier? And it got across the notion that everything has to be either the total creation of God or none of it was? Well, if every part of existence is a part of God himself, then that implies that at some point God was just one entity. See, if at one point God was just one being that existed as a perfect form of existence, then anything that he created other than himself had to be a step down. So in this form, God's ego death was a departure from himself into this other existence. It was, in a sense, the death of the one true perfection. Some have even taken this theory as to be the root of fractals themselves. Remember how I mentioned that people who have these crazy experiences say the entire world exists in these patterns, or that things like human thought and reality exist in patterns? Perhaps these broken patterns are the pieces of God separated from one perfect entity into the world around us. We hear of concepts in Christianity like the Trinity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and imagine God separating himself into 3, and this is extending it to the point that God separated himself into everything. But why would God do that? Why would a singular perfect being stoop himself to the point of humanity in order to create them?
Damn, that's what makes you think. I've heard a theory on that is because if you're one singular being, you'd be alone, and it was the purpose of like not wanting to be alone or separating yourself to see if you could find your whole self. I don't want to get into this one. I think I'm gonna let this one pass, because this one's actually, I've got nothing for this one in terms of how to defend your mind from it. I would just say don't think about it too much.
And that goes into the next theory, God's last wish. One commonality that is seen across nearly every religion is that in the beginning, in creation, God created humanity in order to have a companion. But it's not exactly a companion if it's just a clone of yourself that's as perfect as you are. So according to this, God's last wish, the thing that he broke himself into infinite pieces for in order to begin creation, was in order to create free will. The one thing that God ruled as being better than divinity was the existence of choice. And again, in nearly every religion, the core idea is that humanity separated themselves from God because of a selfish choice. And it's the concept that in the end, humanity exists as pieces of God who have done whatever they've wanted to with that free will. And according to that, because we finally get a happy theory on this iceberg, every single person is a piece of the perfect God who has been given the opportunity in their life to demonstrate how they will use that perfect soul to do whatever choices they wish. And the reason this is such a big deal and so low on the iceberg is because it implies that humanity does in fact have a purpose. And that purpose is a demonstration of the concept of choice in order to eventually return to the companionship with God in divinity. In other words, God's last wish is saying that God destroyed absolute perfection in order to give humanity their own chance. And then finally, we're into the last 3 entries of the conspiracy theory iceberg, and all 3 of them are very closely related. There is no conspiracy refers to the idea.
I just thought about some weird thing that I think I'm just going to share in this video that I think was weird. Yeah, that led me to this, which is crazy. So prepare for this, you guys. And I'm going to be honest about it because I think being more free in the videos has actually helped me realize more things, open my mind up to some stuff. I had a friend recently, maybe 4 months, pretty deep, I guess, 4 months ago that I met. We were talking about these concepts and existing and blah 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 and crazy stuff. And the weirdest thing is, I think before, where was it? I'm kind of leading up on how I got into Critical Role in D&D in general. And how I even got recommended to watch like the whole Vox Machina thing coming out. And I just thought about how this whole concept of the Wendigo was talked about with this friend that I had. And how that's like making me think about how that led into literally watching a guy named Wendigoon. And also not only that, me telling my supposed Wendigo story on my Twitch live, and it's just weird how it went into this. I don't know. That's what literally those last 2 made me think about, to kind of give you a perspective on why I started feeling weird, because it's like, yo, that's actually wild. Like the constant bringing up of the Wendigo actually led to a dude named Wendigoon. That's some wild shit. I think I'm thinking too much. I need a detox after this video. Oh my fucking goodness.
That there is no objective truth.
Detox movie, everyone.
That is being hidden from us. It's kind of weird to get all the way to the bottom of the iceberg and then to hear it say that no conspiracy is actually real. But what this is saying is that there is no secret society, there is no hidden power, there is no shadow government, or anything else that has a better grasp of the human condition than we ourselves. See, there's this weird kind of comfort in the idea that there is some grand truth or grand secret of the universe that's just being hidden from us. Because then, if someone else is hiding it from us, that means it's something that we can understand and something that we can put together. But if the truth is in actuality that we're all just as lost as each other and there is no one person in control, that makes the conclusion all the more terrifying. Any hidden order or grasp to maintain power is just someone else exactly like us trying to find purpose in a world that confuses us. In short, there can be no leader if all of us are lost, and in a way, everyone is trying to find their own path, which leads directly into the next theory: all conspiracies are true. I know it's kind of weird to have one be no conspiracy is real and then all conspiracies are real, but they're talking about 2 different things. No conspiracy is true is saying that there is no grand conspiracy against you, the person. Whereas all conspiracies are true, it's saying that all hidden truths or hidden secrets of the world are interconnected. I've kind of mentioned this before with ideas of the grand unified religious theory or the grand unified conspiracy theory. If you've paid attention up until this point, then you've probably realized there's a lot of concepts and ideas that sound really similar to each other. They just have a couple words mixed around. The idea behind this is that every understanding of religion, esoteric nature, karma, chakras, spiritualism,
be
and what
tied.
have you are all getting back to the root source. So no, it's not referring to the idea that the earth is both round and flat and a donut and hollow and inside out, sadly, but the idea that all of these broad concepts of human nature are branches of the same tree that we're all working our way to the roots of. And concepts like this can be overwhelming. It seems to a lot of people who spend a lot of time in topics like this that the world is this impossible puzzle that is never meant to be understood. This is the same reason that a lot of people who dedicate their lives to religious and supernatural studies end up with a feeling of insignificance. It's hard to try to grasp the concept of everything and to not come out feeling like a nothing. But that's where the final concept of the conspiracy theory iceberg comes in.
I feel like when he drops this, I'm gonna explode.
Final understanding. The final understanding is thought to be the destination of most forms of spiritual practice and meditation. In other words, cultures that have developed ideas of things like nirvana, enlightenment, ascension, or what have you, all come back to one core idea. And sadly, I can't just say some magical phrase that will automatically make you achieve a higher plane of existence, at least not yet. However, there is one idea that permeates whenever you're looking at things like conspiracy theories or hidden secrets of the world that keeps coming back as a constant. And that is the idea that your perspective is with purpose. Think about all the crazy stuff I've talked about that has to do with metaphysics and magic and geometry and esoteric religion and theoretical science and what have you. A lot of these concepts can seem so big that they swallow up the concept of the individual. And while, yeah, some of these theories are bigger than the scope of one person, there is no theory that is beyond the reach of one person. In other words, if you're trying to achieve a higher plane of meditation, or a deeper grasp of conceptual science that isn't real yet, or an understanding of ultra realities, or learning about the lost gaps in human history, or trying to figure out secret religions that have been covered up for decades, or anything in between. Every single concept is tailor-made for you, the individual.
Yeah.
And even if in some of them you can't always be an active participant, you are designed to be the one true witness. Whenever talking about things like the human soul and eternity, it's really hard to kind of narrow it down to a place that we can grab it because it seems beyond our reach. When in actuality, if it's some hidden secret or supernatural knowledge we want to learn about, we have the key. The best way I heard this described is that everything is you and everything is me. Because in the entirety of human thought, there has never been one concept, theory, or idea that was made by humanity in the absence of humanity. In other words, don't spend your life worrying that you're missing out on something greater than yourself, because according to the final understanding, you're right where you're supposed to be. And with that, we have the end of the conspiracy theory iceberg. While I was researching the final understanding, I normally do like word searches or phrase searches to see where they pop up online. And I found a Reddit post from 11 months ago where someone was asking about the final understanding, and a guy replied and said, I don't know, but there's this YouTuber Wendigoon who is currently doing a series on it. He just got done with the first episode, but one day he'll get there. So make sure you're watching when he does. And now, here I am, and I made it, and we all made it. And whenever I started, I never thought that I would get this far, yet here we are. And I just want to say to the guy who said that, and to everyone who was watching in the beginning, and everyone who picked up along the way, and to everyone who's here now, thank you for watching. I am absolutely bewildered about everything that's happened over the course of this year. Whenever I started the first episode of this series, I had, I think, 900 subscribers, maybe 1,000. It was close. Maybe 800 or 900. But either way, in 21 episodes of this series, I am now sitting at around 911,000 subscribers. And like, at first, whenever I made the first couple videos and there was some traction, I was so excited. I'm like, all right, I can make this conspiracy theory iceberg and people will watch. That's so exciting. And then I said, well, maybe I can make other iceberg videos and people watch that. And I said, maybe I can make other creepy content. And that just kept snowballing to now I feel like I have the opportunity to talk about whatever I want to talk about and tell whatever stories I want to get across. And I know I don't want to sound like I'm taking it for granted or I expect it to be there, but it feels like because of the support I've seen so far that someone will be watching. And as someone who's just wanted to be a storyteller and now has that opportunity to do so, that is one of the most encouraging things that's ever happened to me. And this series really has been a life-changing experience because of it. And to see all of you who were so supportive throughout this entire thing, you were there at the beginning and now you get to be here at the end. And I hope that in whatever sense I've done right by you, because that, like I said, this was just like an interest of mine. It was a cool little hobby. And being able to bring that to you guys in the capacity that I have, I hope that I made your time worth it in whatever regard. And I really, it sounds like I'm leaving YouTube. I'm not, but the series is over. And I saw a lot of people who are really sad that it's ending, and I totally understand. The series has been really fun. It's a really cool way to kind of shotgun style present all these different crazy out there ideas. However, I'm also a little bit sad that it's ending, mostly for nostalgia's sake, since this was what began my channel. However, that sadness is immediately overwhelmed by how excited I am for what I have planned in the future. One thing I want to note now, and I want to say before I get into the rest of it, is right now I just ordered professional camera equipment finally. I know it's been a year, right? For those that don't know, the entire Conspiracy Theory Iceberg series has been recorded on my iPhone. You're watching on my phone right now. And one of the reasons that I waited until now to order equipment is as a testament for whoever comes in the future to say that it's not the equipment. You don't have to wait forever to get everything perfectly in line. You can just turn on a camera and start talking. But now that I have proven that silly little point of mine, I'm going to get actual equipment. I didn't just get the camera to make the videos look better. And I don't want to go into detail about it now because I don't want to overhype something. But I have so many plans for the future. And that's the reason I'm not really sad right now. I'm more excited than anything. Because now I finished the first series I started on my channel. I put the bow on it. I love that the final understanding was the last term. It was like the optimistic finality to the whole thing.
Facts.
And now that that's done, I can dive into super long videos about some of these topics, if you catch my drift, to talk about these grander ideas of humanity itself. I can really dive into some of them. And like I mentioned with the better camera equipment, what I'll say for now is not every video is going to be shot sitting in this chair in this corner. Some of them will be, of course, but I have plans to step forward, if you know what I mean. Like, just as my channel stepped away from just the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg series into everything else, I want to keep expanding and I want to keep getting bigger. Because you guys have given me the opportunity to grow and to talk about things that interest me. And it really is wild that a year ago I didn't know what I want to do for the foreseeable future. And then you guys were just a blessing that showed up and dropped this in my lap and said, here you go, have fun with it. And it really is overwhelming. And now we're here at the end of it. And I'm getting sappy, but just above all else, thank you for watching. Thank you so much to my subscribers, as I mentioned. Thank you so much to my top tier patrons. As you can see here, thank you to all of my patrons. I was looking at the first few videos of the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg series, and whenever this series started, there was like 6 people, and the first of which being my girlfriend. Thank you, Kayla, always supported me. But it was just 6 people, and then 7 people, then 8 people, and I would read them out of a notebook at the end. And to go from that to all of this, just constant love and like I really wish I could share the feeling with all of you of wanting to do something and having such an overwhelming abundance of support in that thing to the point where it doesn't become a question of if I can, it's how far can I go with it. And you guys have just been, I'm getting sappy, but you guys have been fantastic. And I say this all the time, and I know every YouTuber says it, but I really mean it. Thank you for watching, because you don't understand how much you just watching this channel not only allows me to continue to make more content, but it fulfills me in a way I can't really describe. So thank you for that. Let me get off the sappy stuff now. So some of you are currently watching the entirety of the conspiracy theory iceberg in one video, because for those who are watching this as it's posted as the last one, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be taking the entire iceberg and throwing it into one video, taking out the intros and the outros. I'm also going to go through and fix some audio issues as well as some editing mistakes. So it's not going to be just exact. It's going to have some fixes in the middle. It's going to have less mid-roll, stuff like that. So that's...
And that video, at the time of watching this, came out 3 days ago.
A lot quicker to watch the whole thing through, and I'm going to leave this outro as the finale to the entire series. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that, or if you're currently watching that and you made it this far, wow, congratulations to you. You've supported me in a way I didn't even think possible. If you would have told me starting this channel I'd have a video however long this video is going to be, and that someone would get this far into it, I would have thought you're crazy. And you're still crazy, and I'm still crazy. But I'm happy that we're both crazy together.
Both crazy together.
So I've got a lot planned for the future. Completely understandable to be sad it's over, but the rest of it's just beginning. So hopefully if you stayed with me this far, you'll stay with me for the next steps of whatever comes in the future. But for now, I believe that should do it. So thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. Giant!
He said it at the fucking end. What a fucking clown. I fucking had a feeling something was coming there and I didn't want to pause. Yeah, I guess it just all goes back to giants. Oh my fucking gosh, that's funny. Yeah, here it is. Right at the top, 3 days ago, the conspiracy theory iceberg. The entire thing. Wow, man, this has been a fucking series, bro. The final understanding just whipped my mind into shape. Not to mention all the inspiration I just felt after hearing him talk at the end. That was insane, bro. And see, that one part that I said, I don't know what part it was when I was like, see, I don't know what I'm talking about, and whatever, it doesn't really matter, believe what you believe, and move on. That's like literally the final understanding is like, if there's something you're not doing, you're not missing out. Don't worry. It's like, if you don't ever get to travel the world, it's okay. Travel it online or in your head. You're the final understanding. Like, it's all, I don't want to get too deep. You could just go so many places. That's why I got a detox. Don't think about it too much. And let's all just have fun and enjoy this. And as always, my purpose here, entertainment, a new perspective, and pushing love and moonlight. So from your boy Lunar, and the final episode of the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg, watch over. I'm signing off. Peace out, ladies and gents.